Alright, so we've decided to mount the Weaver V3. It's a variable power 3x scope on the Mossberg MVP Scout. This is a scope that's mounted in a conventional position. Tried mounting it with the low rings that we had used on the Marlin guide gun with this optic, and they were just too low. Didn't have enough clearance for the eyepiece. But so we had some medium rings, which mounts the scope a little bit higher than I would like, but it does clear the rear peep sight just perfectly, just behind the focus adjusting ring on the eyepiece. So it puts it about 2 inches above the bore. The center of the optic is 2 inches above the center of the bore. So we have to create a new ballistic chart for this setup, and what we've come up with is basically a 24-yard zero. So that puts us for intermediate ranges, say in this case from 100 to about 200 yards. We're about 4 to 5 inches high, right through there. And then our distance zero turns out to be at 275 yards. And at 325 yards, we're again back 5 inches below the line of sight. Here's our line of sight. So basically from 0 to 325 yards, you can pretty much shoot dead on and on a human silhouette, and you'll be on target. Now, of course, you're typically, to be more accurate, you'll use your aiming points for the different ranges. And so here's our aiming point for 100 yards with the duplex reticle. So if we want to hit there in the V ring, we're shooting down around the belly button or belt line area. For the 25, and in this case here, 275 yard range, we shoot dead on. And for 400 yards, we'll shoot up around neckline, chin area. And then that puts us down here in the V ring. Now you can compare this 24-yard zero with a 2-inch sight height to our 14-yard zero with the 1-inch sight height, and you can see the trajectory. If we look down and compare the inches above and below the line of sight, are very, very similar, very close, at least out to about 300 yards. From 300 to 400 it does change a little bit, but it's minimal difference. So it'll be easy to switch from one to the other. With the 24-yard zero, we're 1/10 of an inch high, so we'll probably just zero at 25 yards, and assuming we can detect that kind of detail, 1/10 of an inch high, we will look to get our group approximately 1/10 of an inch high. It'll be hard to detect that, but we'll see how it goes. So next we got to get out the range and do the testing. So after a detour down the land of zeroing idiocracy, we got the rifle zeroed, and the rifle consistently grouped very well during our zero testing, and that's shooting the XM80 just ball ammo. And so now we want to do the Project Appleseed AQT, and given that the ammo costs are a little bit high, we're going to do a 5-round per stage AQT and just multiply times 2 to get our scores. The AQT consists of offhand stage at target simulating 100 yards, a sitting stage with the target simulating 200 yards, and a rapid fire prone stage with a target simulating 300 yards, and a slow fire prone stage with the target simulating 400 yards. The rifle
can do. Okay. Yeah, no, it does great. It's fine. Any failings that we had today were definitely on me, particularly on that last stage. I don't know what it was about it, but it just really kept me from being able to clear it that last bit. But everything did really solid otherwise. So
yeah, here's your AQT. It was your best one. Your Score for Offhand. Sitting, and then the slow or rapid fire prone was really good. And then
Yep.
just something happened.
Down at the bottom, I couldn't get into it. Couldn't get an MPOA for some reason. We weren't slung up properly for this either because of the coats, but
Yeah, it was cold. And we were getting colder and colder.
But no, the rifle is amazing. It's got a great sound on the bolt and everything. Always dig that. I don't know why. It's just something that's really fun with these. Otherwise, I mean, as far as the 5.56 version we have, it's pretty much the same in a lot of ways. I didn't really notice too much of a difference. The way that they do their bolt, I guess it cocks part way on the open and then again on the close. Is that what you said it did?
I think that's how it works. It seems to be.
It's really smooth, really quick to use.
Okay, so here's how a bolt action works on the Mossberg MVP Scout. Here we are with the, it's in the fire position. You see the firing pin is protruding there from the bolt head just a little bit. And you can see this, this release here. This is the back of the firing pin, I suppose, and it's in the all the way down in this notch. Now when you unlock the bolt, the first thing it's doing is bringing that firing pin up into this notch there. Okay, so now it's kind of like cocked the hammer a bit, and then you pull the boat back, and then when you push it forward, the trigger sear catches right on this and pulls that back just a little bit as you lock it down. So it's kind of like it's cocking it in two stages, although this is just a minor little bit. It's lifting it off of there as you lock it down, and this is then rotated over and held by the sear over this gap here. So it's ready when the sear releases it. The firing pin is going to drop right down into there.
It's a little bit heavier, obviously, but otherwise it's a really solid rifle. We had a really, I don't know what the brake you have on there, aside from it being loud, the recoil is almost like a 22. It feels like it's not there. It's just really loud.
I'm sure the brake has a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
I imagine it's a little bit sharp.
We'll have to take a brake off and completely and try it and see how it goes. But no, this thing is, we're gonna have to get some more range time on it for sure. I think we shot 60 rounds today.
Sounds
around there.
Right, yeah. A precious 7.62 ammo.
Yeah, it's probably 120 bucks worth of ammo there. So
probably 20 rounds on the old tilted scope caper.
Yeah, another 20 there, just totally wasted. So, but we got it figured out. So,
Yeah.
as far as I can tell, the breakdown and everything is pretty much the same. You got your little switch on the side to take the bolt out. It does not have the little, what seems to be the flimsy round pickup, but I guess it's not so flimsy because we never had trouble with it before. But
Yeah, 7.62 doesn't require that. And this will take like the SR25 mags, and I think M1A mags as well. I'm not sure how they managed to do that, but supposedly it takes both mags.
maybe.
We got the AR-10 mags, so that's
And
PP mags.
they work just fine. In fact, perfectly. No issues there at all. Obviously, no malfunctions. Didn't even short stroke this one,
Yeah.
which is kind of, that's new for me since I don't shoot bolts very often. But yeah, I mean,
I do wish the Sling mounts were quick detach rather than little swing posts.
oh, like QD or something like that. Yeah, we were talking about that when we got the clips for it. Those are always way nicer because they can swivel a little bit easier and stuff like that. So, but
Trigger.
just like the other MVP, they're really good. It's almost no creep whatsoever, and breaking glass kind of break on it. So it's really easy to, if you're not careful, you can definitely fire them off. Not when you're not ready. So.
How was the scope position for you? I had to mount it to where the little peep sight would fit up right in front of the focus, between the focus and the variable power ring.
Yeah.
And it seemed to me it was about right. So
it seemed fine. I think it has a bit of a longer stock than the other one does, because I ended up having to kind of turkey neck it out there to get a good view of it. So no, the scope mounting position was fine. It'd be interesting to get a scout scope on it just to see how that works. Yeah. But otherwise, yeah, it's solid. I wish we had more ammo and we could get it. We'll need to take it out to some longer ranges, though. I'd like to give it a shot with that instead of doing just AQT stuff with it. But it's definitely a rifle.
Do an Appleseed qualification at full distance. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be neat to do with this. Yeah, I'm sure it's 100% capable of it. So, I mean, it definitely showed itself. Even when we were zeroing issues, we were putting up some really good groups regardless. So they were all hitting in the same spot, so you can't go wrong there. But yeah, this thing is really, really good. A little bit on the heavy side, though, especially out front with these bigger, heavier barrels. But I guess that's to be expected with 308. I'm not sure what they would consider this for a 308. I mean, it's getting up there in the bull barrel-ish. Yeah.
And it tapers nicely from the chamber all the way out to the muzzle. It's a consistent taper all the way out, so that's kind of cool.
I don't think we really got it hot today.
No.
Even doing some rapid fire 5 round, but it was so cold that I bet it would cool off pretty quick. It fed the ammo just fine, no issues there. No weird lockups or extraction issues or anything like that. Yeah, this would make a pretty solid hunting rifle outside of the weight's a little bit more if you had to hike around with it, but I don't know. We always did hunting with M1s anyway, so. This feels light.
Yeah, that's 7 pounds. So that's not too bad.
Yep.
Okay, so my son wasn't able to get the rifleman score on the AQT, but you know, he was wearing like a ski jacket, and it was a really cold day. He did really well in stages 1, 2, and 3. In fact, probably some of his best scores ever, and then just kind of whiffed it on stage 4, where it really counts. And I think he was starting to get a little bit of a shiver because of the cold, and you know, that's youth wearing a ski jacket on a day when you need a heavier coat and heavier gear. So I'm out here today, going to try to get the score today with the Mossberg MVP Scout, running the Weaver V3 optic, and take advantage of the nice warm weather, and I won't even have to wear, you know, big gloves, just fingerless gloves, so I'll have good trigger control and all that. So we'll see how I do with this rifle. Now, I always like to say we'll see how I do with a rifle, because it's easy to say let's see how this rifle does, when actually it's usually this, you know, right here, that's responsible for good or bad. I was watching another YouTuber who was doing a review on the Mossberg MVP Scout, and he was getting some pretty poor results with it. Had some very kind of consistent horizontal stringing. It was about shooting probably 5 minutes of angle, 5 inches at 100 yards, with all of them horizontal stringing, and one of them was just like bam, 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 very horizontal stringing. And he was kind of, you know, was trying to kind of like fake humble, take the blame, say, you know, maybe I suck or something, but actually it was kind of, he was kind of in a way subtly, you know, blaming the rifle. So well, one thing, whenever I see horizontal stringing, I know for sure, I'm 95% certain that that is a dragging wood issue. That is, his finger did not get an exaggerated C-shaped trigger finger pulling the trigger straight back. So he's just ever so slightly pulling the rifle off left or right horizontally. And that's easy to do when you're doing a grip on a straight stock rifle, when you're doing the thumb over grip. Do the thumb on the side grip, you get that exaggerated C-shaped trigger finger, and you're going to eliminate that horizontal stringing. That's my diagnosis. I could be wrong. But you know, 95% of the time, my experience, if I see horizontal stringing, I'm going to start watching to see if they got what their trigger finger looks like. You know, sometimes, you know, like a rifle that you can set on the bench with the lead sled and get, you know, sub-minute of angle accuracy, when you actually take it out in the field and shoot from field positions, prone, sitting, standing, and all that, it's often a different story when you combine the rifle and the shooter. And I think it's, you know, it's very important to pay attention to that ergonomic interface between shooter and rifle, and the marksmanship skills to be accurate in the field, not just shooting from a bench. A good example of that is comparing like my RDB, Kel-Tec RDB, with an BCM AR-15. The AR-15 is probably a little bit innately a little more accurate than the RDB, but out in the field, when it's shooting from behind cover, shooting from field positions, RDB is just quite a bit better. And then also under very, like previous video, and I'll include a link down in the description, where it's very windy, like we often have here in Wyoming. One day it was blowing like 30 miles an hour, gusting to 40, and I was doing the shooting between the AR and the RDB, comparing the two, and the RDB was definitely easier to shoot in high wind conditions. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to shoot the AQT Army qualification test, or Appleseed qualification test, where you shoot from standing, sitting, and prone rapid fire and prone slow fire. And I'm going to shoot, instead of, usually you would shoot with 10 rounds, I'm going to shoot, because of the cost of ammo and scarcity of 7.62 NATO ammo, I'm going to shoot 5 rounds right-handed through stage 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 rounds each stage left-handed, 1, 2, 3, 4, and see how I do. I'm also running the Mantis X10 Elite today, so I'm going to collect some data on you know, just kind of a interstage comparison to see how steady I am between stages. You know, presumably I'm going to be way more steady or prone than I am standing. That's what you'd expect, but we'll just get some data to kind of demonstrate that. But what I am going to do at the end of the day, once I'm finished, is I'm going to pull the muzzle brake off and put the flash hider back on, and I'll fire 5 shots with the stock flash hider, a birdcage flash hider, and we'll see if there's a difference in the Mantis X10 Elite scores between just a flash hider versus this really nice Voodoo Innovations muzzle brake. This thing really tames recoil. So it's going to be interesting to see how much of a difference if the Mantis X10 Elite kind of shows us that difference in felt recoil. Okay, so I'm not going to like bore you with a lot of just footage of me just shooting. Today I'm going to do is take advantage of the opportunity to just get some kind of close-up shots of various things I'm doing, maybe see where I'm doing things wrong, kind of some self-diagnosis. Like I'll get some close-up shots of the trigger, close-up shots of my foregrip, close-up shots of working the bolt, whether left and right-handed. So we can just get some kind of mood shots for today, because we've already done a lot of AQT video stuff. One thing I did do to give myself an added advantage over my son Brian was to get better cheek weld. I just got some pipe insulation and some vet wrap and put some pipe insulation to get my cheek weld just a little bit higher for this optic. I do think this optic needs to be forward about another ½ inch. I normally like to do a turkey neck cheek weld, but I'm having to kind of come back just a little bit on my turkey neck cheek weld, and so I either going to have to, if I want to fix that, I could probably go to lower rings to remove the iron sights from this. But I'm going to leave those on for now and just go with it as it is. And hopefully we'll better do a review. Our next video on the Mossberg MVP will be with a scout scope. So I'm looking for candidates to feature on this rifle in another episode, but a scout scope. the Mossberg MVP Scout proved that I and the Scout get along pretty well. First shooting right-handed, my offhand score was a 48. That's probably one of my highest. I think maybe I got into 50 once, but that's with lots of shooting on the ARs and RDBs. My sitting position, which I squat, which is not quite as stable as sitting, but I like it better, still got a 48. I really had a good stable position on that one. Then rapid fire prone, I got a 44. And then finally on the slow fire prone, which is simulating 400 yards, I got a 46, which that score is doubled, so that's weighted pretty heavily. And the overall score was a 232, which is, for me, is excellent. I mean, there's a lot of my fellow instructors at Project Appleseed can do better than that, but that's one of my better ones, so I'm real happy with that. Now, shooting left-handed did not go well for me today. And so here's my excuses. I don't like to, well, excuses, screw it. But, well, excuses. I hurt my shoulder yesterday. I ended on my mountain bike, so it's a little bit sore. It's this shoulder, which didn't seem to bother me shooting right-handed, but left-handed, when I pulled it forward, it was really kind of painful. And then also, for another excuse, I didn't quite get my sling quite right on stage 2 and 3. The loop sling was too tight and over a little bit too far. But okay, ignoring the excuses. 46 offhand, so did almost as well offhand left-handed as I did right-handed. Then things went downhill. I shot a 32 on my squatting and a 32 on slow fire prone, and did okay on the slow fire prone. That was the rapid fire prone. Slow fire prone, I did okay, got a 42, so that's doubled for an 84. Overall score was a 194. That's okay. It's not a rifleman score. So, but I'm gonna take the mulligan today for injuries in the field, and it's definitely not the rifle. Okay, then what I did was I did a test with I took my muzzle brake off and put the flash hider back on. My MantisX Scores were really good on that. It didn't really affect the overall score, but it looks like Mantis X10 Elite it basically only scores the part that leading up to the trigger brake and then the trigger brake, and then the score is not based on the recoil after the trigger brake, but you can definitely see, because it uses, I think it's I don't know, different color lines. There's one color line for before the trigger brake, one color line kind of right around the trigger brake, and then the follow-up is in red. And definitely you could tell a difference that there was more recoil, and there was more felt recoil. Just it didn't seem to affect my scores. Let me go pull the target and let's see how I did on that. Okay, here's the target. I started off this morning, I used this as my zero target to check my zero, and so I've got those 2 shots that were for the zero marked right there. That was my cold bore shot, and then that was what I considered a zero, just to check my zero shot. And then the rest of these here are my 5-round shot with the flash hider. So it looks like it didn't really affect my accuracy. It is good or as bad as I was before, and just definitely a noticeable impact on recoil. I suppose if I were shooting that a lot, maybe I would develop a flinch, but it's hard to say because while the Voodoo muzzle brake definitely reduces felt recoil, it does increase quite a bit the muzzle blast. So if you're sound sensitive, the muzzle brake might cause you to flinch more than maybe the standard flash hider. If you're impact recoil sensitive, then maybe the flash hider is gonna, not be optimal for you. You definitely would like the muzzle brake. But as far as accuracy, I shot as well with either. So I'm actually very impressed with the Mossberg MVP Scout. The setup here with this Weaver V3, it's a 3-power scope. It's proven pretty capable. I would like to try it with a scout scope, so looking for recommendations to mount a scout scope, a long eye relief scout scope up here. I get lots of offers for some Chinese manufactured scopes, but I just don't do Chinese stuff, at least not for guns. I'll buy Chinese stuff for, you know, everyday consumables, but anything that has a martial purpose, not buying Chinese. So anyway, like to get the scout scope on here. Maybe we can get rid of most of this cheek riser here that I've ghettoed on here, and but still great rifle, terrific value, and some what I would like to see, you know, I will put the muzzle brake back on. I would like to see a lighter barrel. This bull barrel is a bit heavy, and go with a 18 or 20 inch barrel. I think that was kind of spec'd out by Jeff Cooper, was at least, I think, an 18 inch, maybe 20, 18 or 20. I don't think he suggested a 16 and a quarter, but it does make it handy, and it definitely can shoot. It definitely is I mean, you figure, the way I look at it, if that's the group that this rifle's getting with me shooting, okay, you got to figure that I'm a huge factor in whatever, you know, the fact that those are not just overlapping, that's a huge percentage of that is going to be me. So that's at this range is about a 4-minute of angle group, you know, shooting from prone, you know, not from a bench. So that's what we strive for when we teach Project Appleseed, is a 4-minute of angle group. And so you figure, you know, 3-minute of that at least is probably me, at least. So you know, the human factor, and that the human factor is what's introduced when you are shooting from field positions, whether standing, you know, sitting, squatting, or even prone. Even prone, you're not going to be as, you know, with even using the sling, it's pretty stable, but it's not going to be as stable as a lead sled or something shooting from a bench. So really what this test proved is that the suck with me using Peep Sights, that's me sucking at using Peep Sights. With an optic, I guess old man eyes did better with the optic. Anyways, Mark Laughlin speaking for the Ambidextrous Gunfighter. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Okay, so if you made it this far into the video, I guess you deserve an explanation of what was the great scope idiocracy caper. What I did was I was mounting the scope one night, and let's just say maybe I had a few beverages that I probably shouldn't have while handling a firearm. But I got the position right, and it was all set up, and then I was like, oh, I need to shift it back to clear the peep sight. And as I did that, I actually rotated this over here like that, so that basically I had the windage adjustment was up on top, and the elevation adjustment was on the side. Now you would have thought, I mean, I actually commented to Brian, I said, when I went to adjust the elevation, I looked on there, I was like, wait a minute, this scope has the windage on top and the elevation on the side? That is weird, I don't remember it being like that. Well, I guess it was cold, and we just weren't thinking straight. It was really cold. And so we started adjusting, you know, we went to adjust the elevation, we adjusted on the side here, and that was actually, of course, moving it back and forth, left and right. And then this was, although it said it had the arrows on it, you know, say it is shifting left and right, this was, the top side here was actually, of course, adjusting the elevation. So it was just all totally foobarred, and it took us a while. I mean, we were just like going, I was just like going, man, I have never seen a scope where the windage adjustment was on the top. It was always elevation on top, and I was like, I don't remember it being like that. Why is it? I mean, I'd put this scope on the Marlin guide gun. I sure don't remember it being that way. And just, it didn't even occur to me that I'd had this rotated over like that until we started, you know, finally dawned on us. I was like, wait a minute, if I rotate this back up here, oh look, now we get our little Weaver emblem in the right place where you can see it, and you don't see this other manufacturing information showing that it's made in Japan. Oh, so that it was the great Idiocracy scope zeroing caper. So anyway, so if you made it this far, you get to share in my embarrassment.